Welcome to today's Current Affairs Tonight. On tonight's program today, we get an inside voice from the communities who were affected by the Melbourne Channel Deepening Project. Your reporters for this special report are David Gazzo and Brad Sykes.
Port Phillip Bay, the gateway to the heart of Melbourne, home to almost 1 million beachside residents, over 5,000 species of marine life, and it's a popular playground to Melburnians and tourists during the summer season. Unfortunately, all of this will soon disappear. The world is changing rapidly, and Melbourne has to adapt to the changes along with it. The Channel Deepening Project has sparked outrage with local communities, businesses and the environmentalists. With the bay already having problems with people above the surface, it seems like a stupid time to do anything else to it. And now something will disturb the bay from below the surface. Yeah, I'm Brad Sykes and I'm from today's Current Affairs Tonight. I was wondering if you'd like to answer a few questions about the new up-and-coming dredging at Port Phillip Bay.
Yeah, sure.
Beauty. I was just wondering, what's your opinion on the issue and how have you been affected?
Well, to be completely honest, I don't see the point in making it deeper. All it's doing is make it into a water freeway for bigger boats to pollute our already polluted bay. And it'll make it even more dangerous for people to swim in. I mean, what happens if something goes wrong? What if my children get poisoned? But what do I know? I'm no scientist.
He was right. He was just a man in a towel. So David decided to get the hard facts.
So, Mr. Scientist, what can you tell us? Should we be worried?
Be worried? Yes, we most certainly should. The environmental harm caused by the channel deepening is most likely to be long-lasting for generations. Firstly, there is the issue that we need to re-dredge on a regular basis to ensure that the deepened channels, which have been made in the floor of the bay, are not filled by settling sediment and rock. This means that there will be no opportunity for the chemicals to settle beneath the surface once again. And secondly, chemicals such as the lead, zinc and mercury are being dredged into the bay and will most definitely diffuse throughout the once crystal clean waters. The chance of becoming ill from these chemicals and toxins are at a high percentage and we really need to be concerned about it.
So, do you think the bay is a safe environment to swim in at the moment?
Hell no, I most certainly don't. I'd rather pay for my children to swim at a local pool than in a toxic, festy, infected bay.
Mr. Scientist spoke words that I didn't understand, but that didn't matter because he knew what he was talking about. Meanwhile, Brad caught up with the Victorian Environmental Minister for an interview with words he could comprehend.
Why do we need to dredge?
Well, Brad, Melbourne is a growing city and opportunities are expanding. The Channel Deepening Project is simply to accommodate for this ever-changing world around us. It will allow Melbourne to accept larger container vessels which cost less and bring in more revenue for the state.
A report released on March 21st has stated that the dredging operation alone will cost some $590 million. Now when will we see some good, hard, economic benefit?
This operation is costly, but the benefit from this will be beneficial to all beneficiaries. The Victorian Government is positive that there will be a turnover within the next few months as more imports and exports are generated, which means the revenue will increase remarkably.
Are you aware of the torment you are forcing upon the environment?
Look, there are all these issues revolving around the environment being damaged in the short and long term. I can assure you that the Victorian Government is doing all we can to maintain the pristine environment within the bay.
Mr. Tenderley failed to give accurate information about the effects it would have on the environment. So David caught up with Ima Stump, a local environmentalist, to get some answers about what impact the Channel Deepening Project really has on the environment.
So, Ima, what effect is this really having on the bay?
Well, the project is aiming to dredge some
23 million cubic metres of seabed from the bay's shipping channels. This is almost unheard of. As my fellow ecologist Simon Roberts from Monash Uni has stated, the amount of material to be dredged in the capital phase of the project is more than the equivalent of digging a 2 metre deep by 15 metre wide trench from Melbourne to Sydney. This is completely and utterly outrageous. Port Phillip Bay has the highest diversity of marine species compared to any other waters in the world. The turbidity of the water blocks sunlight and therefore blocks the path of photosynthesis, which allows plant life on the seabed to grow. And as plants are the first and foremost of the food chain, they are the vital link, and the marine life will suffer from this and begin to die. Also, the deadly toxins that will be present are exposed into the bay. They can be absorbed into the fish, and that can be fatal when a local fisherman catches fish that for the businesses that strive for excellent quality and depending on the bay. David? David?
Yes, thanks for your time. Yeah, I just needed that. Got a long trip back to the studio, so yeah, thanks.
As I left the hippie, I decided to drop in on an old mate of mine down at the cattle ranch.
So how has the Melbourne Deepening Channel project affected you and your farm?
It hasn't.
We could have talked the bacon off a pig, but it was time to hit the road and meet up with a young leader within the community.
How has the issue of dredging affected the attitudes of young adolescents?
Well, there's an issue within the issue. My fellow peers are not treating this issue with the initial respect it deserves. I feel that they are taking it lightly and have not yet realised that what happens now can have a disastrous effect in the future.
So how do you feel about the issue?
Well, personally, it couldn't have come at a better time. Without this issue, who knows what other issue we would have to be studying for English? Maybe David Hicks. All I know is this is great material for my English oral presentation. Tuesday, the 13th of May, period 2.
Ravalson raised some good points. While I pondered on what he spoke about, Brad was talking to the local lifeguard to get his perspective on the issue.
Have you noticed any differences in the water quality?
No, not really. I mean, there's been the occasional colour change to a darker colour, but that's only usually after it's rained from the stormwater outlets. But other than that, I can't say that dredging has had any effect so far.
Oh, beautiful. Well, how have the public responded to this?
Well, you get people coming up all the time and asking questions about whether it's safe and what the dangers are and so on and so forth. But we just put the flags out because we know that the water is safe for the time being. If there was any threat to a swimmer at any time, we would close the beach immediately. And at the end of the day, it's up to the public to whether they think it's safe or not. I mean, it's a personal choice. And what a touching story that was. Coming up after the break, more to your naughty, you decide. But before we do that, let's go live to the classroom where Brad Sykes and David Gather are standing by.